So it's time for another cheeky little bonus episode in between series. We are going to be back really soon with series 3, so keep an eye out on the podcast platforms. Subscribe if you haven't already, and do point other people to gppodcast.uk so that they can find out about us as well. But yeah, we've got another little episode today. Enjoy.
So I am so excited to get to chat to this guest because I don't get to chat to him enough. It's really show. I was going to say, like, other than my husband and my parents or my family, like, you're the other person I speak a lot to, which I don't think in your eyes is probably the best thing because I don't think it's that often. Anyway, I'm so excited to get to hear a bit more about Joe because we often like talk overview stuff or sort of like what's going on at the moment. So it's really nice to be able to sit down. Well, I'm sat. I think you're standing, and go through who Joe is and, you know, again, why we've ended up together making this podcast.
I mean, it's an honour to be here. I'm slightly disappointed that you didn't say we've been expecting you for some time.
Sorry. He's finally responded to our emails and has said he wants to come on to the podcast. He's responded to our emails, our calls, the smoke signals, my incessant tweets to him. Anyway, we will start, as always, with the guests, the quick fire questions. So, Joe, like, big important question number 1. What is your favourite biscuit?
It's a tough one. I think right now, if it was just a blanket question, I had to give a single answer, I'd probably go Oreo. I do like an Oreo, but I also think that biscuits require context. If you're going to be dipping it in something, I'm not like an Oreos in milk kind of guy, but I'd probably go with, like, if I had a coffee, maybe like a bourbon or something. A chocolate digestive is also good, but then you end up eating so many of them.
Yeah.
I think all round Oreo is probably my favourite.
Yes. They're just so expensive now, though.
They are.
As is everything.
Especially if you go double stuffed.
Oh. I've had a peanut butter Oreo before. They were amazing. Anyway, what is your favourite social platform?
I think I'd probably say Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about the just being visual that takes away from the negativity in a lot of ways. I'm sure there's a lot of parents of teens who disagree with that, but I think for me, Instagram, something where I can just sort of share, not be too worried about doing it professionally, and it's more of a personal platform for me. You know, I use other platforms, especially Facebook and LinkedIn, in more of a professional way. I don't post much personally to Facebook these days. I used to love Twitter. Like, if you'd asked me 5-10 years ago, then Twitter would easily have been my favorite, but I just find there's so much negativity there these days that I can't cope with it. And so I'm hopeful that Threads maybe won't go that way, but I mean, it's humans, right? So maybe it will.
Yeah. I mean, and you also love Instagram for our fun Christian memes that we send each other.
Yeah, I'm now following a worrying number of like Christian meme accounts. There's Rogue Worship, there's Deuteronomy memes, which I mainly follow just for the name alone because that's brilliant. It's good to sort of, we were saying the other day, weren't we, that it's good to poke fun at yourselves.
Yeah.
I think we just need to be a little bit careful as well that it doesn't become so self-indulgent that spills over into how we're posting, or especially if we're posting as our church is.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a bit of an inside-outside thing and isn't helpful to people. But yeah, definitely good to like poke fun at yourselves.
Yeah. And what is your favourite podcasts? Are there any specific ones that you tune into each week?
Yeah, I think like you, I really like Off Menu. I'm hopefully going to see that film later in the year. It should be really cool. Filmed, recorded, whatever. I listen to the Taskmaster podcast. I like, although it might feel like this is, you know, a name which is about 15 years out of date, I listen to the Chris Moyles podcast each week. I generally will go to podcasts for like easy listening stuff, which is ironic given that, you know, we produce a factual, a helpful podcast. But personally, I don't tend to go to podcasts for like business advice and strategy stuff. It tends to be something I listen to while I'm walking the dog and is quite chilled out. But I do also listen to like a few faith-based podcasts. So there was one which is mainly aimed at pastors and church leaders called You're Not Crazy. That was really good, by the Gospel Coalition and some really good guys doing that. I still listen to a lot of Tim Keller and just happens to be in podcast form. So a mixture really, but I'd say if you had to sort of pin me down to one that I listen to all the time, it would probably be Chris Moyles.
I was trying to explain to my dad what a podcast is. I was like, radio on demand. Anyway. Now, the most important question of all questions. Gourds or pomegranates?
Again, I think this needs a little bit of context. If you're talking about having it in a soup, then I'm gourd all the way. Yeah. But I generally, being camp pomegranate, I quite like pomegranate, sort of like juice and seeds and stuff. And also, as you said, people know what a pomegranate is, so it requires less explanation. Although I've realised more, like since watching VeggieTales with our daughter recently, I've realised how much it comes up. Obviously, it's more of an American thing, so there you go.
Though actually, I reckon if you had a closed, as in like not a sliced pomegranate, I wonder actually how many people would be able to identify it as being a pomegranate from the outside, like until you cut it open. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. You're more familiar with seeing the seeds and stuff, and yeah.
So I think we're definitely winning on the pomegranates bar. But yes, amazing. I'm glad that our sort of stuff aligns in chocolate biscuits, but we're not fighting for the last ones. But yeah. So remind us where you are, who you are, what do you do, who are you with, who, what, when, where, why.
Yeah. So right now I am in a home in Kent. I have like a home office that I work from full time, and I grew up in Kent, although was in Bournemouth for about 10 years before we moved back here. My full time is being a web designer. I do web and brand design, do a lot of work with churches and charities, and then just small businesses, and having a real variety there. So that's with my own company, but I also do loads of other stuff on the side of that. We're now going to a different church, and really looking forward to getting stuck in there with lots of different things. Something that I've not been able to do for a little while, but I'm keen to get back into doing is serving in the music ministry, and yeah, just bringing glory to God that way.
What's your instrument of choice?
That's a tough one. My main instrument, like the only instrument I've ever been taught, is saxophone, but I really enjoy playing drums. I play guitar and piano as well. If I'm sort of leading a congregation or a group, then I find that much easier to do on guitar. I really love playing piano, but I can't really play and sing at the same time.
See, I find it easier to piano play and lead than guitar, because guitar is not I'm stronger on piano.
Yeah, as am I, but I think the concentration of singing as well, it doesn't quite compute in my brain. It depends who I'm with as well, like what other musicians I'm playing with. That if I'm playing with like a strong rhythm section, then I feel like I don't need to do quite as much on the piano, and then I can give a bit more of my brain space to the leading and maybe the singing part of it. So yeah, it's always a mix. I should probably mention my family as well.
That was going to be my next question.
I've got a little daughter called Daisy and a wife called Naomi. And like you, we've got a little dog who I still call a puppy, but he's really not a puppy anymore. He's just very puppyish. So Kobe's a little black cocker spaniel. He's 2 years old, and he's
very cute,
a ball of energy.
I just think we should have like a dog special episode, like one day, get them to interview each other or something.
I think it'd be a very short episode.
Yeah.
You'd have Kobe who'd get bored and run off after about 5 seconds when he realises there's no treats on hand.
And Fabian would be asleep
snoring. Yeah.
So you said a bit about your work and what you do. Anything particular that you've been working on that's very exciting for you, or something that you're really looking forward to?
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 projects I'm working on at the moment, one for a videographer and one for a networking group that I'm involved with. And they are both really exciting projects because they're really creative. And so I can kind of stretch my legs a bit, which isn't to say I'm not creative on other projects, but I think often when people have more of a set idea of what they want, or if it's like more of a traditional type of business, then you find yourself going towards more of I don't want to say traditional design, but something that isn't too outside of the box, that isn't too unexpected. So yeah, those are really good projects. Mentioned that we worked on the Changemakers project together in our last episode. And so that was nice to have something that, when we're talking about a series of videos, to be able to just put the visuals at the forefront. That really helps my job as a designer, because I can construct something around that rather than having to kind of, like make it up, like make something look good that doesn't. So whenever there's sort of good imagery and stuff like that, that's good. So yeah, there's been some really good creative projects recently. It's been nice to have worked with churches as well that, again, with that sort of more creative approach. So just willing to have more of a conversation rather than dictate exactly what they want and what they need. Because I think usually when you have that approach where there's that dialogue, you end up with something which is better. And with church websites, I mean, this won't be a secret because we've talked about websites on the podcast before, but I'm very much put the sort of newcomer audience first. Like, I have my evangelist hat on when looking at the website, because you can give information to people who are already in the church and they will go looking for it, as long as you don't make it harder than it needs to be. But yeah, grabbing people's attention in a really creative way. And that's something that I think we'll probably cover a little bit in the next series as well. You know, we're going to be talking about sermon series graphics, and not so much do we need them, but do they need to be quite as prominent as they often are?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really nice thing about my work is that there's a lot of variety. So probably about half of my clients are churches, but then there's other sorts as well. And I used to think that the kind of secular clients were there just to fund the church stuff, because that was what I was really passionate about. And obviously I am still passionate about that, but I've come to realize that if I just work 100% with churches, never mind that I'm also running like a Christian networking group and this podcast, you then find yourself, well, the only other thing you have time for in the week is church on a Sunday, and then suddenly all you're doing all week is talking to Christians.
Yep.
At which point, where is my personal mission field? You know, it's just not there. So I realized that working with all sorts of clients and showing love to them is a really big part of the business for me. So yeah, that's something my sort of thinking on that has changed over time since launching the business.
Yeah, no, it's very true. So you kind of just mentioned them, but outside of Be Gallant, are you involved in anything else?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the Christian Business Group. So that's an online monthly thing that we meet on Zoom, but then we'll have sort of socials throughout the year. And that's been really cool because it's been an opportunity to grow my business and help grow other people's businesses. It's not purely a faith-based thing, but it has that faith element to it, which you won't find in other networking groups. So we come together, we talk about who we are, we talk about our businesses, but then we will pray for each other, and we'll have guest speakers who can inspire us and motivate us and teach us from the Bible. So that's been really cool. Yeah, I mean, I think with most Christians who are in a church, you're always going to have loads of these extracurricular activities that just take up your time. And so there's definitely a balance with not wanting to get involved in too many things, but I am also involved in the committee that plans the Kent Men's Convention, which is really cool, yearly conference with teaching and everything. I had 250 men together earlier in the year to be taught and worship and all of that. There's a women's convention that runs alongside it as well. And then all sorts really. Obviously, you know, involvement with church is at an early stage because we're in a new church, but it's that balance of knowing we are given amazing gifts by God. We're given all of these resources and energy and time to invest as we look after them for Him. But at the same time, there's a limit to that, and we need to use our wisdom to know where that is.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice hearing it all in one go, because you just normally as I said already, we touch on stuff. So it's nice to kind of hear it. It's very exciting. So if anyone would like to get in touch with you, where and how is the best way to?
Probably the easiest is to go via my website. So definitely for any business stuff, go to begallant.uk. But that's also probably the easiest way to get to my social media links as well. So begallant.uk/connect. That's begallant.uk/connect. And then you'll find like links to everything on there. Like if you really want to WhatsApp me, you'll find a WhatsApp link on there. But you'll also find links to my Twitter, my Instagram, and whatever. So you can connect that way. And yeah, always happy to chat.
Yay. He is still on Twitter. He does respond to things that I post about him on Twitter. So there you go. Now you know a bit more about Joe. And with that, we are almost ready to start series 3 of the Gourds and Pomegranates podcast. As ever, if you want to drop us a message with any questions you'd like to have answered, or even just want to let us know that you're listening, it's lovely to know where people are listening from. And if you have a bit of encouragement, that's always lovely as well. You can reach us by email at hello@gppodcast.uk. See you in season 3.